G'day viewers, this is the Amtrak Acela. We're on the New York Trenton route. Let's learn how to drive this beast. Come over here and open up the door to go in. Head on in and shut the door naturally enough. Now down here there's our safety switches for the alerter, automatic train control and access. Don't turn those on right yet, because it's very important when you come in here to sit down in the engineer's seat and to activate the cab. So the reverser is currently in the off position, which means it's in the left hand bit. And if I tried to move it, it would just jiggle around. I was just moving it with the rail driver. You need to put it in the in position, so neutral. And then we can go back and turn on our safety systems. Let's go and do that now. The alerter is a bit like a dog that regularly jumps up and goes, "Hey, you awake, boss?" And there's ATC, or automatic train control. This is the system that prevents you running up the butt of another train. So it relays the cab signalling to you and enforces it. Then there's access, which is about civil things like speed limits on bridges, curves, points, and that sort of thing. Now, there's a bunch of switches on the back wall. You don't really need to worry about any of them to drive. Some of them work, some of them don't. Most of them don't do anything really useful. Alrighty, first things first. Important stuff. Let's get our brakes set up. Most of the time when you jump into a train, they already will be. So I'm just going to set that to passenger. And I'm going to pull the brake handle out of the handle off position, which is where it's sitting, and bring it down to, probably about service 40%. That'll do. It's a self-lapping brake, so you don't need to worry about the old-fashioned air brakes. Alright, let's put our headlights. We'll pop them on dim because we're inside the station, and we'll put our ditch lights on auto. We know the brakes are applied, so we can check, so we can look at our gauges over here. This red needle here is the brake cylinder pressure, so we know our brakes are applied, so we can come back here and release the parking brake. This thing here is called the ADU, and it gives you the cab signal aspect and the maximum authorized speed from ATC or Axis or both. Now, you need to drive to the lesser of the speeds you see on this thing. So sometimes you'll see a speed up here, and you'll always see a speed here. Well, nearly always. Now, it doesn't always tell you about things. So in yards, your speed limit's actually 15 or 5, depending on it's posted. In this station, it's 15. So you notice the HUD's actually showing 15 as my limit. And the maximum authorized speed is slightly higher. Alright, over here we have cruise control, so you can set your speed with this. We have the throttle, which sets how much power is being used, and we have the air brake handle that you saw a moment ago. Let's just get our doors open, so I'll use the usual key combination for that. It's the Y or the Y for left, U for right, or you can use your keys from your controller. Now, I like to turn these lights down a bit because they annoy me a bit being that bright. And if you need wipers, they're here. We don't need them in here because we're inside a station. And if you put it in intermittent mode, you can set the speed with this one. If you need to contact the dispatcher or signaler, depending on your locality, PTT button on the radio head will do that for you. All right, it's time to lock our doors. Now, this is an early access build that I'm using to do this, so things might be a little bit different to when you get it. Alright, so we're going to go out and we're going to do 15. So let's just set the cruise control. If you've got a rail driver like I do, you can use the independent brake for this, but I'm going to use the mouse as similar to what you'd experience with a controller or a keyboard. I'm going to release my brakes and apply a little bit of throttle. You know what? I can't apply any throttle because I forgot something. Putting it in forward. That would help, wouldn't it? Alright then. Now I can apply a little bit of throttle. Now we don't use our horn down here because it's actually against the rules. So we just use our bell while we're going through the platform. You can see on these gauges here, the two upper gauges with the white needles. The blue bit is when it's powering. You can see it's already rolling back because it's reached our target speed near enough. And yellow is for when it's doing electronic braking or electric braking. I hesitate to call it dynamics because it's not really. There's our alerter. Acknowledge that with the Q key or the stick or by manipulating any control, almost, throttle and brake anyway. Now, the other gauges down here are the brake gauge. You will need the white needle, that's the equalizing reservoir. When you need to get into suppression, drop about 15 pounds from that one and you'll be sweet. Brake needle, which is the red one, tells you how much the train is braking, and it's measured off only your carriage or locomotive. There's the noisy dog again. And the white needle is the brake pipe, which runs throughout the entire train. I'm going to let the alerter stop the train this next time. There we go. I've just got a clear 125. That's a false indication, and it's an issue in this early access build. So I would expect that to get addressed at some point. So now we're waiting for the alerter. There it is. We're just going to let it stop the train because it will. And we also just got an access indication to go to 60, which is actually correct. So the tunnels do allow for 60, but I'm not going to do anything just yet. There we go. The alerter is now punishing me with a penalty application, which is correct. I'll just show you how to reset from that. So take your throttle back to 0. That actually acknowledged the alerter and has released the brakes. Now we can throttle up again. We can turn off that bell because it's annoying. And we can set our cruise control, which was a bit wild then because the rail driver is a little bit sloppy on the cruise control. We'll set that for just under our target speed. And you can see that on the blue gauges we're powering up a lot. You notice one of them flickers a little bit. That means that the lead car is losing a bit of traction. Don't worry too much about that. The car just deals with it by itself. So you don't really need to do anything. And you can see on the HUD that there is a bit of wheel slip. Again, don't worry about it. It deals with it by itself. So it recognises the slip, it backs off the power and puts it back on again. Good to hear a train roaring through the other tunnel there. We come under the Hudson River, heading for New Jersey, leaving the state of New York and the city of New York to head over the other side. Started going uphill, so I will give it just a little bit more throttle to cope with the hill. We will follow the indications. Now, on the ADU, we won't get one for a little while. On the ADU, this is the speed you do, the maximum authorised speed, unless you're in an area where it doesn't apply, like Penn Station or a yard, in which case you do 15 or 10, whatever is posted. I think in one place it's even 5 through one of the washers. So in those cases, you just need to have the route knowledge. And you can turn off the HUD and just drive to the ADU if you want to. I normally do. In fact, why don't I do that? So just cruise along. The annoying dog will pop up and go, "How you doing, boss? What's going on? Pat me, pat me." So we head up on out. We must be pretty close to the end now. In fact, we are. I can see it. Soon we'll start being allowed to ramp up our speed. The Acela actually can get up to 150 in a few places on the route. So every time the alerter fires, the timer gets reset every time you manipulate a control. So whenever you do that, it'll drop back to 0. Or you just acknowledge it with Q, B button on the controller, or the stick, as per normal. And we're now allowed up to 75. Now, there is a little bit of an issue with this early access version, and we'll find out whether it gets resolved or not. You get the occasional spurious speed down indication, and they can be a little bit annoying. So I do sometimes get one of those right about here, so let's see what happens. Not this time, that's good. If you get one, you may discover that you've gone into overspeed. There we go. There's one there. We had a very brief one coming down. I acknowledge that. What happened there is you had a very brief drop down in speed, which is actually a bug, and then you've gone back to the correct speed, which is a speed up to 90. Now, the train doesn't know how to reset from that, so you end up with overspeed and suppression stuck on until next time you have a moment where the signals talk to you properly. So if that bothers you, you can just turn the safety systems off, if you like, if it worries you, until such time as it gets patched. It doesn't worry me too much. It's a little bit annoying, but, you know, it's a game, isn't it? The alerter again, travelling through the station. Probably should have honked the horn coming through there, but let's just pop on the bell. Now we know we have to come down to 60 mile an hour in a little bit under a mile. So what you should do is actually start coming down to that now. So I'm going to set my speed down to just below 60. Let the train start slowing down, because we know we're on the way there. And you can see that the ADU has started to count down. So it's heading down for that speed. So as long as your speed is sticking underneath this number, you'll be fine. It won't punish you. If you're above that number, you have to react and put your brakes into suppression. So you notice our speed's getting above the number now. So we have the alerter and we have a valid overspeed. So I've just got to go into suppression. And as soon as you get to the speed, you can release it again. Now, more often than not, a minimum application is enough for that. But there are times when it might not be. And remember I told you about the equalizing reservoir needle, this one, and just drop that by 15? That's effectively what happened when I braked then. So we can go back up to 90 now. You'll find yourself going up and down quite a bit because it's actually trains in front of you that cause it. And it's also civil restrictions, such as maybe a speed for a bridge. That particular one back there is a speed for a bridge. So if you get to know what they are, or you just leave the hint HUD up on the top right hand corner, you'll be fine with that. Now, when I braked before, even though my throttle needle's still in the right place, do you notice I didn't power up then when I set the cruise control higher? That's because I have to go back to 0 and I have to throttle up again. And now the train will start to power up. Now, there's two things that will happen there. With the throttle locked out like that, it also means that your electric braking isn't going to be happening. So you've only got the air brakes. We've got a countdown again. We have to come down to 60. So this time I'm just going to leave my speed where it is. And I'll show you how quickly we have to get there. So I'll just set it. Actually, I wanted to set it for about there. All right. All right. Now I've got a penalty application because I was overspeed for too long and I didn't react to it. I'll acknowledge that. And once we get down to 60 or near it, I can release. I'll let that go a little early then. Let's just bring our cruise back down again. I'm still getting used to this. I've only had it for a few days. You'll take a little while to get used to it too, but these are the right principles. So what I did then that was incorrect was I released the brakes before I actually got down to the speed. So the penalty and the acknowledge started to go off again. Now our throttle will be locked out, so back to 0 and bring it back up. And you notice that the train immediately started braking then. So the two power needles went into the yellow as soon as I brought the throttle back into action. And before that they weren't, so the train was just running over the speed I've set. Alright, the next thing I want to show you is how to recover from an emergency stop. So let's whack the button. It dumps all the air. Of course the alerter goes off at the same time because it's just like that. Now, as you're stopping, you can bring your throttle back to 0. Cruise control doesn't matter, you can just leave it there. Brakes, take them up to the handle off position. So just past full service is handle off. There we go. Release the emergency stop button. And in theory, we should be able to release the brakes. There we go. Just had a plane flying us over there from Newark Airport. The brakes are starting to release. So we can apply some power. I'm just going to turn the HUD back on because I might have applied that a little early. I did, so it's still locked out. So now we can apply some power. You've got to wait a little while after you release the brakes. And off we go again. Heading for Newark Penn now. You can see Newark Penn's iconic bridge over there. I often drive without the alerter, to be honest, because I'm not a real trained driver when I'm operating in this game. And I can see a countdown coming, so I'm going to bring my speed down. And I'm going to break my speed because we've gotten over it. We're in suppression. I'll acknowledge. I'll hold suppression until we're below, and then I'll release. You'll still end up going a little bit slower. Throttle back to 0. And back up again. You don't want to go too hard coming through here anyway because you're coming into a station. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is while I break into the station. I'm going to leave my throttle where it is because remember, if I take my throttle back to 0, I don't have any electric braking. I only have the air braking. So I'm going to want to stop for this station, right? I could use just the air braking because it's low speed. But you might as well use your electric braking as well. Coming through the big iconic lift bridge. I don't think this thing actually opens and shuts anymore, but it did at one point in its life. Alright, we've got a speed down indicator to 35, so I've braked down to that. Then I'm back on minimum brakes. Now you notice because my throttle's still there, I'm still getting electric braking. Give it a bit more. Just bring us to a stop. Kill the bell and get the doors open. I'm not sure if there's one thing I didn't show you at the start there. I'm going to turn on HEP so that the people in the back aren't in the dark. That turns on their lights and air conditioning. If you get into a scenario where you need to manipulate the pantographs, you've got Panto down, big yellow button, and Panto up, the little black button. You do have blinds if you wish to use them. There's an added challenge for you. You can drive with the blind all the way down there. That could actually be fun. You have side blinds. And I don't recommend opening them at speed, but you do have windows as well that you can open. And same over on the other side, window and blind as well. Alrighty, so we're going to lock our doors now. Now let's bring our cruise control back down because at the moment it's set over the speed we want to do. Throttle back to 0. Bit of a honk to get out of here. And away we go. Release the brakes. And away we go. That was a bit nuffy, wasn't it? In fact, I released the brakes and didn't wait long enough again. Did you notice that? And away we go. Well, that's all I wanted to show you in this tutorial, so thank you very much for watching. I hope it's been useful for you. I hope it's also good to see that, well, everybody's learning this thing. So I've got all the right principles, but my actions need a bit of work, and you'll probably find the same. It is quite enjoyable running with safety systems on, and I really do encourage it. There is that little bug that I showed you at the start, and you'll just have to find your way through that. Be zen. But anyway, I find it a little bit annoying, but you know, it's gone quickly enough, so I don't worry about it too much, and I am absolutely certain that it will be addressed very, very soon. Alrighty, thanks heaps for watching, and we shall see you later. If you've got any questions, chuck them down below in the comments. Bye now.